able to join us. So thank you so much for making it here. Today, I have been tasked to speak about strategies for student retention in our school, what we can do as school leaders to ensure that we have students in our school. I have worked in 3 different schools. I worked in Lagos for 2 years, and then I moved over to Abuja here, where I worked with another school for 7 years. I am currently working in Statutory School, and I've been here for 18 years. This is my 19th year. So you see, it's not only about strategies for student retention, strategies for also staff retention is something that, I'm conversant with. But today, let's not talk about staff. We're talking about students. I'll start by giving you a little story about where I work. 18 years ago, when I joined the system, I joined them 6 months after we started the Statutory schools. And in that 6 months, when I came, we had just, let me say, about 15 students. A few years down the line, we grew to the number 300. But as I speak now, we are 800 and counting. We have 3 sections of the school: the early years, the primary, and secondary. Well, in the last few years, we have had people who joined our system and they return. What made them return? And what made them stay on? What did we do differently? That we got referrals and people join our school. I must say, I'll be sharing some of those strategies with us today. If you're running a school as a school leader, you all know that there is a lot of competition out there. Schools are springing up everywhere. I traveled some years back to Ibadan, and in a particular street, I counted about 6 schools. And I say, oh my God, how will this school be able to retain students? First of all, get in students and retain them in their school. Well, today I am tasked with the, I am tasked to be able to give us the practical steps we can use to retain students in our school. So I am going to start off, if you can share my slide, please. I'll start off by creating a scenario. If you can share my slide, please. Let's share my slide now, please. Cool. Linka, please share my slide.
This slide is up, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Another, but it tracks personal feedback, it tracks personal responses to be able to fit motivation for people. It could be gamification for one, it could be third party or not for another. It could be any.
All right. I don't know who's can we mute ourselves, please? I want to start off by creating a scenario. I want to create a scenario, and please, I'd like us to listen because I'd like us to share ideas in the chat box. Now, scenario 1 states, a parent suddenly withdraws their child midterm without prior complaints. No clear reason is given, but there were hints of dissatisfaction. Now, I would like to ask this question. What early warning signs might the school leader have missed? And how can we create better feedback loop with this parent? This is the first scenario that I have created. I don't know, can anybody hear me in the chat room? Can anybody hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you, ma'am.
Thank you. So the first scenario is this. A parent suddenly withdraws their child midterm without prior complaints. No clear reason is given, but there were hints of dissatisfaction. The first question is, what early warning signs might we have missed? Can I have answers in the chat room now, please? Are there any answers in the chat room? A parent who suddenly withdraws the child from the school without prior complaint. What early warning signs might have been missed? If you know you want to say something, you can raise your hand up and then I'll give you the floor. Anyone? There might have been communication gap. Thank you, Yusuf Salami. Lack of communication. Mr. Victor, communication. Okay, what do you think? How can we create better feedback loop with these parents? What do you think we can do? Warning signs leading to withdrawal of learner, expectation not met. Now, I'd like an answer to be given to this. How can we create better feedback loops with parents? What can we do? I would guess that the answer would be communicating properly with these parents, finding out from the teacher what might have been the cause, and then, of course, checking with the parents, calling in, looking for stronger relationship with these parents. Mr. Victor says having regular survey might help to know what was the dissatisfaction. Now I'm going to create the second scenario. And the second scenario reads, the school sees, and this has to do with transition, maybe year drop-off. The school sees a consistent drop in enrollment after year 6 or year 9 as parents opt for other schools. Now, in this school B, we see that after the year 6, there is no continuity. After year 9, there is no continuity. Now, the question I have is this: what are families looking for that they don't see in our transition years? What might hold them back? What might make them opt for another school after their children are done in year 6 and year 9? Can I have some answers in the chat room? What might families be looking for that they don't see in our transition years, moving from year 6 to year 7? Beautiful, future-ready curriculum. They might not see that you're ready to take their children to another level in the secondary. What else? Any other answers? They might not see, for me, I think they might not see that you have a robust programs that may help to build the children's profile. It might be lack of quality teaching. Amazing, thank you so much. Now, how can we retain students through graduation? They might want to experience another environment. Okay, remember that we're talking about retention here. What might make them? The family may find it hard to continue because you don't have the results for the years. Absolutely, that might be another constraint. Now, how can we retain students through to graduation? Now, how can we make sure that the students who started with us in year 6, who moved to year 9, stay up until year 12? If there are answers, let me see it in the chat box. We are doing this together. I don't do my webinars or my teaching on a lecture level. So I would like to know, how can we retain students through to graduation? What strategy can you suggest? Loyalty rewards, amazing. So for somebody who has stayed true with you up until year 9, there should be some kind of loyalty rewards. Amazing. Any other thing? Build a community and not a school. Fantastic, fantastic. Build a community and not a school. I think that the school should provide a solid curriculum that the parents can relate with. Fantastic. Thank you. For me, I think the strategy I would think is that we can have stronger middle and high school marketing. We can reel out a success story and have a seamless academic planning. Okay, so we are going to move right up to our slide now as we start. Why is it important for us to have retention? And there is a quote under my slide. Could you move to that quote, please? I don't know if I can control this from here, but I know that I don't have my slides here with me. Please move the slides for me.
Apologies, ma. The quote isn't showing, but I'll quickly go back to PowerPoint and get it up for you. Just give me a moment, please.
I would like to share that quote with everyone this evening. And it's very important that as school leaders, okay, now I think I'll read it from my own end. Emmanuel Aloysius says, create effective feedback mechanism for the parents. Fantastic. Now I have a quote that says, if a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. This resonates with me. Having taught for 25 years, I think the best way we can actually pass on knowledge to students is the best way we can teach them is to teach them the way they can learn. If a child can learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach them the way they learn. Let's have that at the back of our mind. Now, why retention matters? Why should we think retention? I think there are a couple of reasons why we should think retention, and that has to do with retention is linked to reputation and the performance. When we look at retention, is linked to your school reputation. Are you a school that have very serious turnover when it comes to students year in, year out? You're always having students turnover. Instead of your school growing, your school is not growing as it should grow. You don't have retention. You don't have many students staying back in your school, having that continuity, that flow from the reception, they move to the year primary, from primary, they move to your secondary, if you have a school that has all three sections. So retention is linked to school reputation and the performance. How well is your school performing? What success story have you had? Those are the reasons why retention matters. Now, high school dropout rate affects students' future and school credibility. So if you're a school that after each school year, when you're doing your analysis, you find out that instead of your numbers to increase, your numbers keep dropping. I think as a school leader and as an educator is something that you have to look at, because school success plus school sustainability equals retention. When your school is successful, your academic results are okay, your events are top-notch, it leads to a sustainable school. And then you have what is called retention. So when we talk about student retention, what do we mean? How do we go about it? Can you move to the next slide, please? Now, what will help you to determine or to go about school retention in your school, retaining students so that they move from one year group to another, is early identification. As a school leader, you must always keep your eyes on the numbers. We are getting ready to start the school year. The numbers are very important to you. Now, your question you're going to ask yourself is, how many students returned? What made them not to return? So early identification is what will help you. Early intervention is what is going to help you. And then continuous improvement. How can I make my year 6 students move to year 7? How can I continue to feed my year 6, my year 7 class? How can I continue to feed my year 9 class, year 9 who are moving from year 9 to year 10? How can I continue to feed them so that they don't move to another school? This you can do with continuous improvement. Now I'm going to ask us a question and quickly put it in the chat box. What do you think that are the factors? Please, could you go back to the other slide? What do you think that are the factors that affect student retention? A few of them have been mentioned already in our conversation. Someone said something about, someone said something about lack of communication. Another person said something about the school not having a strong curriculum. But I would like to hear from you again. What do you think are the factors that affect student retention? What do you think are the factors that affect students' retention? So Kudo said that happiness index or level of the school, happiness index or level of the school. Is that a reason, one of the factors? Very good. Thank you, Ngozi. Staff turnover. Every year, year in, when you return to school, like this September, you're seeing new faces. That becomes worrisome. The students are used to a particular set of teachers, and they return back to school. What do they meet? They meet new faces. That affects student retention. Can I have more answers? We have about 37 people in the chat room. Staff retaining, parents don't like the change of teachers. Amaomi, thank you so much. Happiness index in this case refers to the level of happiness of the student. Fantastic. I mean, for me, that starts and stops with the tone of the school. What kind of school? What school culture have you put in place that makes your students happy? They want to come to school. They don't want to leave the school. Consistent staff development is part of them. High fees, academic performance. When they are not getting their desired results in their student academic performance, fantastic. Please move to the next slide. I think for me, you have all answered the question, but let's look at what I came up with, or in my years of experience, because I can tell you, someone says, as funny as it may sound, food is very important. I totally agree with you. I remember when we started our secondary school here at StartRight, what appealed to the primary student did not appeal to the secondary student. So we quickly had to do a survey to ask our secondary school students what kind of food would they like to see, the school provide. And we got that feedback and we're able to provide, and the students got better. Good manners of approach at all times, retention of competent, experienced and qualified teacher, parental support and involvement. Thank you. I would go with what I have put down here. Number one, academic issues. This is always what parents look out for to keep their children in a particular school. How well is the performance of the school, which is why schools leverage on social media to publish their results. There's always that competition. How well did they perform in the local exam, in the national exam, in the international exam? So these are things that may affect student retention. Financial instability. As a school leader, when the school is not able to pay salary as they should, of course, there will be high staff turnover. And in that way, it affects student retention. This may also even also affect the resources that is provided in the school. If the school is financially unstable, it affects the school. And of course, social challenges. If you're not the type of school that provides events where the children can get engaged in, is also a problem. Lack of accessibility. When parents cannot access their school leaders or access the school to have shared ownership, it becomes a problem. One thing I know that we do in our school very well is that we make the school, the community to be such that the parents are involved. There's something that we do that is called parents hangouts. It is not planned by the school leaders, not planned by the teachers. It's not planned by the event committee. It is planned by the parents. That way, there is what we call shared ownership. Another factor that may affect student retention in our school is engagement issues. When parents are not able to engage, students are not able to engage, the teachers themselves are not able to engage and understand what the school is all about, it becomes a problem. And that's why when a child is dissatisfied with the way the school is run, of course, they will look out for other schools. Unclear vision. This year, you're looking at, our unique selling point is academic excellence. The next year, you're moving to events. The next year, you do not really have a clear vision for where you're going with your school. This affects student retention. And then, of course, personal issues. Now, I would like to create a scenario here in one school that I know. where the owner of the school, the director of the school is not actually an educationist. But what happens is that because he's the owner of the school, he feels like he should be the one that will run the school. So what happens is that he walks into the school. The day he's very unhappy with a particular teacher. What she would do is to sack the person immediately. So this person is bringing, the running of the school is not done like that. So it affects the school. And in a particular term, you could have her sack almost 6 teachers for very minor issues that could have been handled professionally. So personal issues are not handled the way it should be handled. And so it affects student retention. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, if you really want to take your school to another level, because I have given you that, I've told you that my school is the perfect example where we are able to have student retention. We have situations where our students stay on right from when they were in early years till they got to year 12. We are 18 years and going to 19 years, but we have that high level retention in our school. Why? Because there were a couple of things that we did right. So firstly, what our advice is, build strong relationships. Build strong relationships. Please move to the next slide. Now, how do you build strong relationships? The first thing you have to do is know your students' names. Know your students' names. Students like it. When they walk into the school, you can call them by their names. Know what their interests are. Know what their goals are. That way, they want to wake up in the morning and come to school. To be honest, here at our school, because it's a value-based school, we teach them values. One of the values that we teach them is responsibility. When our children walk into school right from the early years, they can actually walk into the school by themselves without anybody, their parents, walking them in. Why? Because they feel loved, they feel cherished when they're walking in, and each teacher that passes can, hello, Christy, you're welcome to school today. You're welcome to school today. It gives them that sense of belonging. Create a culture where everyone feels valued. That I just said now. And then introduce what is called mentorship program. When you introduce what is known as mentorship program at the student level, it builds strong relationship. There's something that we introduced in our school in year 5. That is primary 5. We started the mentorship program right from primary 5. What did we do? We carried out a survey to look at the needs of the children, and we paired them with mentors. Those that had academic problems, those that had social problems, we paired them with mentors who were working with them. Why? Because we wanted to see how well they would perform at the end of the exit class, which was year 6. I mean, that really worked for us. By the time they got to year 6, we clearly understood the academic level of the child. And when we fed them into our secondary, they go straight up into the mentorship program. There's a particular day when they meet with their mentors. They're able to share their academic performance, their social problems with them, and so it works. But I'd like to say something to us this evening by taking these quotes by Justin Tarty. And it says, teachers who put relationship first don't just have students for 1 year. They have students who view them as their teacher for life. I would like to open up the room now for conversation. Is there anybody that would want to share the experience that they had with any particular child in their educational journey? Someone who they handled for just 1 year, and that student they became their teacher for life. Is there anyone that would want to share their experience and what they did differently that made them be able to, their students to love them, see them as their teacher for life? Is there anybody that would like to share? Is there anybody that would like to share their conversation with us? You can do that by raising your hands up. Let's see if there's anybody that would like to share. Cool, Linka, is anybody? Okay. So I would share my
There's
experience.
someone, ma. Sorry, ma. Jamiu or Detola.
Okay,
You can
please,
go ahead
you
and.
Yes, good evening, Mrs. Ekanem. Good evening, everyone.
Thank
Yes,
you.
this current slide, I agree totally, 100% with you. Because if you build a very good relationship with your students, there are certain things they can't discuss with their parents that they would actually discuss with you. So I have taught in 3 different schools. In my former school, there was a particular girl. She's always coming to school moody. So at first I will scold her, why didn't you do homework? But something now strike my mind, why not call her? If she's your daughter, what would you do? So the second class, I called her and I said, what happened? And this time around, I didn't shout at her. I said, what happened? I know you to be a very good girl. What happened? Recently, you have not been in cons. Then said, my daddy, are quarreling, blah, blah, blah. So to cut the long story short, God is doing very well. We did not only retain that girl, she started from and yeah, in our with a very good result. She had 781B, and our IGCSE result was she was outstanding. So I quite agree with you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Jamil, Mr. Dotala. There's a chat that says in the room that says, this quote is so true. Students do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. Fantastic. So I will share my experience when I was in the classroom. I taught the primary for a long time. This was basically in the year 3 class. I had a particular child who was quite autistic. Now, before the child got to me many years ago, I already knew the child's situation. So when the child got to me, before the child got to me, all the teachers ran away from teaching the child. He was like that from reception to year 1 to year 2. Now, when the child got to me in year 3, the parent didn't actually want to put this child in my class. They wanted to put this child in another class. And the teacher rejected the child. And of course, I took up the child. Now, what did I do differently? I structured my lessons differently. I spent a little more time with this particular child. When every other person was writing a composition of how I spent my last holiday, I asked him, what would you like to write on? He would tell me, he would like to write about his pet. He had a turtle as a pet at that time. I mean, I managed to read what he was writing. It didn't make sense for an autistic child who was in year 3. But what I would do with what I remember I did with him was to stay back after school, spend a little time with him. I got to the point where I did some flashcards, gave it to the mom, took it to the mom, placed it in there. I just went all the extra for this child. I want to say to everyone that currently as we speak, this boy continued. I continued to check up on him, even when he was in year 4, year 5. He did year 6. He went on to continue in our secondary. He graduated last year and currently is the University of Abuja. Anytime this particular child is asked, who is your best teacher? This child will continue to mention my name, Mrs. Ekanem. Why? Because I cared. Why? Because I showed a difference. Why? Because I was always there. And that particular school year that I spent with this child, I must say that my perception and everything changed. Not just for me as a teacher, but generally as the whole school. Now, I was always a reference point to say, if Ms. Ekanem could handle this child, everyone can handle any kind of child. Everybody is unique. It's just how well you care for this child. So I want to say that if you're in this room as a school leader, as an educator, if you actually really want to make a difference as a teacher, you must put your relationship first. Yes, Mr. Victor, for one of my students, I got to a point where I sent him pocket money university a few times. I got close to his family. You know, it is in those days that they say that a teacher's reward is in heaven. Our reward is right here on earth, because as I speak now, at the time when this child was graduating, I know how much thank you that the parents sent to me. So now, how to understand how to increase student retention, something you must do, everyone. You must conduct a research and analyze your data. Don't just work without data. Find out why, count your numbers, check your numbers, analyze your numbers, ask your teachers question, what might have been the problem? Why did this person leave? Why did this family leave? You know, for a school like mine, that when we started on a lot of referrals, and because we are a school that cared, what we found out was that we kept having families that were referring their high academic standard, their care for children who don't do well. They don't relegate children to the background. They set up programs for the children. That was our turning point. But if in your school, you find out that after some time, you're not getting the numbers that you ought to get. In fact, when you get to a plateau and you see that you're not really growing, what should you do? Conduct a research, analyze your data. So now I'm moving on to effective strategies. What can we do? What are the steps that you must take as a school leader, as an educator, to become better? Number one, student involvement and leadership. Get your students involved. In the secondary, I remember many years ago, we actually wanted to grow our secondary. We wanted to grow our primary 6. Let me start with that. And we asked ourselves, what can we do so that parents don't leave from year 5? So that we have a high number, you know, being retained in our year 6 class, because we wanted to do a full school in the primary. We came up with programs that involve students. One of them was students internship. Started what is called internal internship in our school. How do we run that? When they are done with their exams in 3rd term, we share them into the different classes, the early years, the year 1, year 2 classes. We share them to work with managers. Now, we give them a form to fill, and whoever they are working with give us a feedback. That feedback is what we use to give them a certificate. Now, that's year 5 students are looking forward to, moving around the classes and doing what is called internship. Another program that we introduced was the sleepover. We had what was known as a sleepover. We started with the program where they come in, they write their vision board, how they hope to, you know, what they hope to do in the secondary school. And then after they sleep over in the school environment, they have a bonfire night. They just share memories that they will never forget. That way we'll be able to get them to do year 6. The last program that we introduced a few years ago was to stage a play. This play that was staged was used, whatever funds that were raised was used for community service. Either they visited the motherless or they bought something, you know, and kept in their school where they stamped their year group on it. So when every other class saw what was happening, it was easy, very, very easy for us to have that continuity in year 6. This last school year, we graduated 59 children out of our year 6 class. So I must say that our primary is running on autopilot as we speak. Now, what are we doing differently in our year 12? The same thing, we got our student involved. The student leadership in year 11 now start up a program. They carry out a social activity that is just peculiar to them. They do car wash and all that. So this strategy worked for us. And that way, when the school community noticed that the students were actually involved, we had a lot more retention. Now, ensure that you have a safe and supportive environment. This cannot be overemphasized. We make sure that you do your risk assessment from time to time to ensure that your environment is safe. If need be, like this new school year, change some of the facilities, some of the things that they are not using, the property they're not using in your school that is not safe, the playground, the student decks, things that are not really safe around the school. Make your school environment safe. Career guidance and pathway, smooth transitions, monitor and evaluate. I'll speak on smooth transition. Now, what we've done that worked in primary, in the reception and the year 6 class, is to have what is called transition meeting. We bring in the parents in the reception class, have a day with them, expose them to the curriculum they'll be meeting, the activities that they will meet in the primary class, and then take them on a tour around the primary the primary block. Let them see what the rooms look like. Let them know who the teachers are. That way is a smoother transition for both the pupils and their parents. The same thing is what we do in our secondary. We do what is called taster morning for our year 6 parents. They see what our secondary offer, and that way is a smoother transition for our students. And it translates to retention, monitor and evaluate. So let me just quickly go into student involvement and leadership. Like I said, number 1, encourage clubs, sport and cultural activity, give students leadership role, listen to students' feedback. I gave you a scenario in our school when our children were not enjoying the meals that were being provided. They kept complaining. And then what do? We set up some questions in the Google form and shared it to the students in the Google Classroom. The response that we got was tremendous, back to the vendors that were bringing food, and then even to the kind of food that was being provided. We saw that our students became happier. And because we listened, when we did the survey the next time, we saw less complaints. That's something I'd like to encourage everyone to do. Then how do you have a safe and supportive environment? Implement an anti-bullying policy. This works all the time for anybody. We do not want, you do not want a situation where your students go home to complain that, they're being bullied. In fact, in my school, all around the school, there's a slogan that we have: see something, say something. So if you put that, and it's the policy, you put it around your school, it will help. Provide counseling and peer support system. This is also very important. This you can do on the level of student to student, on the level of teacher to student, and then celebrate diversity and inclusion. I'd like to say something here about inclusion. Please go back to that slide. There was this particular school year, we had a child who joined the school, and this child was albinist, that the child was an albino. It was a rude shock for some of our students who had not seen an albino student before. We noticed how they cringe each time they saw the child and all that. Now, what do we do differently? We quickly organized an assembly where we talked to the students about diversity and inclusion. We hammered on the fact that we are all different, but we are unique. And then we created people who were bodies to this child. And before you know it, everyone understood that even though we are created differently, we are all unique and that we are all important. So, can we move on? The next thing I think we should do is career guidance and future pathways. This cannot be, left in the dark. Career counseling and mentorship is one thing that can help with students' retention. Now, what we introduced in the secondary, what we call profiling the children. We profile and then you come out and speak about yourself in the school assembly, let everybody hear how well you performed. Now, how does this help? Right from when you're in year 7, you're able to write about yourself, your achievement, areas where you need to work on, and you work with your mentor to see improvement. Now, we have even cascaded that down to our primary. So you're beginning to write about your profile right from when you are in primary. By the time you get to year 12, you already clearly know where you are going, so that when you are looking for scholarships and opportunities, you can clearly say that, oh, while I was in primary, I was a school leader. When I got to secondary, I still became a school leader. Or while I was in primary, I was involved in sports. I continued like that. So that way, by the time they get to year 11, year 12, when they're looking for university pathways, it's easy for them to get opportunity because you already created a robust profile. It helps with student retention. Now, link academics to the real life application. This is something that we must do all the time as school leaders and educators. In your activities that you carry out in school, link it to real life. There's something that we do every year at our school, every term. We have a living value that we focus on, and classes come out to host an assembly. And this assembly, we use role plays. And that way we are linking that academic. Let them come out with videos that you can post on YouTube. And they take ownership. They become very happy. about what they're able to do as a school. So link academics to real life application. Another thing I think I spoke about was smooth transition. That's number 4. Have an orientation for the new student. Please move to the next slide. Have an orientation for the new student. Transition support program between levels. I have already explained that. Now, the last thing in this particular strategy is that peer body system for newcomers. We see that when once students get into secondary, the root shock of moving sometimes from maybe 9 subjects to 15 subjects is crazy. So how do you make sure that they don't feel dissatisfied? They don't go home crying. They don't tell their parents that they don't want to continue in this school. They want to go back to their former school. Peer body system for newcomers work. It helps all the time. And then monitor and evaluate. Track attendance, performance, and feedback. Track attendance. How maybe before a parent leaves your school, what policy have you put in place for them? That's a feedback. Let it become part of your policy. Before you take your child out of our school, maybe if you're relocating to another country, let us know why you're leaving. It helps. Conduct regular student surveys. This is something that will help you to know areas where you need improvement. Adapt strategies as needed. What kind of strategies do you think that you can adapt in your school that will make your students want to come back? I must tell you guys, here in my school, when school closes, students do not want to leave. We always still have a full school until we had to write to parents, look, come and pick up your child when school is over. So the teachers have to also go home. Why? Because they find out that the school is a beautiful place to stay in. Then lastly, I would like to share, recognize and celebrate success. This is one thing that I know that most schools have adopted and are able to retain students in their school. Celebrate academic and personal growth. Let it come in different forms, not just academic growth. The academic is set in stone, how the children perform, best in math, best in English. But there are other ways that you can celebrate personal growth. Because, you know, there is this conversation around schools, that schools only celebrate people who do well in math, who do well in English. What we've done differently at our school that has worked is that at class levels, when we are on the day we are doing our class parties, if you go around the school, all over our school, students are being celebrated for one thing or the other. Most helpful, class clown. Things, you know, you call it a name that you know the children would like. The person who likes to make the class to be bubbly. That way, you are recognizing effort and not just excellence. Public acknowledgement. Do that in assemblies, do that in newsletters. Look for ways that you can celebrate your school. The social media is one way that you can actually recognize and celebrate success. In fact, what I introduced in my school this last school year is for us to come up with videos, short videos on different curriculum topics. For instance, there's something we did on saving the planet. And we introduced that for years 1, 2, and 3. The students worked on the different SDGs and tied it to saving the planet. They came up with videos and we posted these videos on our social media handles. We shared it with their parents and their parents were very excited. So recognizing and celebrating success is one thing that I know that schools, when they do this, will be able to retain students in their school. I know that I'm not talking to only school leaders, I'm talking to educators here. And I want to end by saying, what are the key takeaways that you should adopt if you want to retain students in your school? Student involvement and leadership, safe and supportive environment, career guidance and pathway, smooth transitions, monitor, evaluate. The more you monitor, the more you evaluate, the more you're able to retain students in our school. I am proud to say that right here at where I work, we are fully subscribed in most year groups. We now have what is called a waiting list. Until you get to that point in your school where you have a waiting list, you can actually say that you have succeeded in having student retention in your school. On that note, I'd like to say thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mara. We truly appreciate your words of wisdom this evening. It's so awesome. In fact, I've been glued to the screen like you shouldn't just finish. And I guess that's how most of the participants tonight are feeling. Thank you so much. We appreciate. Now it's time for questions. I don't know if we have questions for Mrs. Christy Ekanem so she could attend to them. We just have like few more minutes for question so we don't exceed our time, and then we can all go back home and go back and rest. Do we have questions? Oh, ma'am, you're a mentor to so many people you are not aware of.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gladys. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you, Aloysius, Omolala. Thank you, Bukola. Thank you. Thank you, Adiza. Thank you. I appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm grateful. Thank you, School Linker.
All right. I guess we go. You're welcome. I guess we don't have any question. Is that what it's saying? Like no question
Okay,
for her?
Mr. Victor has something to say there.
Okay.
What do you do with difficult parents who have the tendency to chase other parents away? Okay, I would suggest, we've had that situation here at a school. Parents who had to, in fact, this parent at first was very good. A lot of referrals. She was one of the parents who would refer other parents to her school. But it got to a point where she became toxic. She was now actually kind of getting other parents, I'm not happy with this, I don't like this, I don't like that. And then she would not go, she would not leave. We found out that she was not leaving. And when we traced it that she was the one that was always having this conversation. So what did we do? We invited these parents in and we had a conversation. Having a difficult conversation is one thing that as school leaders we must always have. We had a way of letting her know that we appreciate her, we like what we've been doing, see how she has been helping the school, but however in recent times, we'd like to know, is there anything that has made you dissatisfied? Or are there things that you've heard from other parents that you think the school should know? My colleagues, my noble colleagues, she started reeling. She was now talking and telling us these things. So we clearly was able to know that she was the one that was actually peddling all these conversations that was not good for the school. Now we had to clearly tell this parent that, look, is either you align to the vision of the school or you leave. And after that, we saw a change. Now, for parents who are very toxic, you might actually want to tell them that they should shop for the next school, or do this in a way that it doesn't affect, other students, other parents, I mean to say. Okay, someone has asked, can I receive?
There's another question. And someone...
Go on,
Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay,
all right.
Do you manage
how do we
parents?
manage parents who try to apologies. How do we manage parents who threaten to leave on the ground of not being patient enough to see the changes or met her expectation as regards her learning journey?
Well, I would believe that you have had a lot of conversations with these parents, because most times the way we deal with parents should be from parent to parent. Sometimes you put up policies that say teachers don't talk to parents until when it is PTC, don't talk to parents until when they see the results. It doesn't work. Using one size fits all does not work. Sometimes some of these parents want to know about their learner's journey, their children's journey from time to time. So I would suggest, or I would say, having constant conversation with these parents, it would help to allay their fears. How do you manage them? If you're able to tell them, oh, per time, this is how your child is performing, this is what we are doing as a school, this is what you can do with this child, I don't think they'll be dissatisfied. But if they're still dissatisfied, if you're giving them feedback, you're doing a survey and giving them feedback, if you're putting in all that you need to put in to make this child do well, and the child is still not meeting up with expectations, and they're not very happy, I'm afraid there's nothing you can do. But I'd like to suggest, how well is this parent getting enough information about the learning journey of this child? If they're not getting enough information, it would be a problem. But if they are getting and they're still troubled, there's very little that you can do. But like I said, let there be a lot of conversation, let there be a lot of analysis, let them see it on pen on paper, what you're doing with the child, let them get feedback from time to time. So I think that will help.
All right. Another question says, for a new school, how do you get parents to trust you? That's true.
Well, how do you get parents to trust you? I mean, trust, is a process. You can't just wake up and then somebody trusts you. I think it will be on the kind of conversations you have. First of all, what is your vision? I remember when I started working here at StartRight, I had to tell our proprietors then we must share the vision time per time. Once the parents know where you're headed, which direction you're going, they will trust you. And when they see that you're meeting up with the direction in which you're going, trust will come. Trust is earned. You don't wake up and just earn somebody's trust. It is a process, the work that you put in, that make them trust you. And after some time, as a new school, just put in the work. Let your teachers understand the ethos, the policy, let them understand the vision and the mission of the school. And that way, it cascades down to your parents, and you hit your ground running.
Thank you, Miriam. The next question says, parents tend to compare schools. They go as far as telling you what they are doing in other schools that they expect to see in your school. How do you let them know that as a school, you have your own standard and policies?
The school should be a shared ownership thing, to be honest. I remember when we first started, there were a couple of things that we were cut out to build confident children per time. That was our unique selling point. And then what did we do? We started off, but as we went on, a few parents, started coming in to say, there are certain things I think you should do. Take your student out on external competitions, do this and do that. It's important that you have a listening ear. Even though you have your own standard and policy, just listening on them, see the ones you need to sieve. Drop the ones that you think you should drop. But more than enough, parents are also stakeholders. Once you see them as partners, you are able to go far with the conversation. You're able to go far with your policy. Sometimes you may need to tweak your standard. I'm not saying go overboard. There must be some sense in what they are saying for you to accept what they are saying. So for me, I think that not accepting everything in total, but listening in to say, what else? What is that school doing? You have, like I said, share your vision first. Let them understand your direction. From the time your students are coming in, their parents are coming, do they understand who you stand for as a school? Once they understand, the difference is always clear. What tips would you give to an online?
Okay. I give Omomi the microphone to ask her question. She has been raising her hand for a while now. Omomi,
Okay,
go ahead,
fine.
please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We truly appreciate you. Thank you so much. Your wealth of experiences is invaluable. We appreciate him. All right, what I want to ask is, I was one that dropped the question, but I think I didn't, probably the chat was not making it justice to what I want to ask. When a parent is not seeing to the fact that the learner's challenge doesn't have to do with how the with the school, but a patient method to realize how to help that child. And the parent is not seen to know what the child is passing through, but only just think that the child can do more. But it is the learner, it is the teachers, the school that already knows that this parent, this particular learner needs to be patiently handled. It is not the way the parent is thinking that the child is actually learning. It is the person that handles the child, that's the teachers, that knows how the child is performing, not the way the parent comes to say that my child is this, my child is that. So and now you come back to the school to threaten the school that I will take my child when my child is not doing really well, yada, yada, all of those things. How do you handle such? Thank you.
Many years ago, I remember in my school, we didn't really have a tool to give feedback to parents. When I say the tool, we were not having that. We didn't assess. We didn't have the capacity to assess children, to know their learning needs. We were able to move past that when we now had what is called the SEND department. The SEND department would analyze. If they check that the child did a proper psychological assessment, we bring in someone to assess. But before then, we have conversation with the parents. At the point of entry, maybe apart from the fact that if the child started with you, if the child started with you, by the time the child gets to the reception class, there will be signs to show that this child has a learning need. Do not be quiet about it. Call the parents in for a conversation, and there will be a need for an assessment. When you have that assessment, that is a tool, that's a document that you present to the child to say, the fault is not from the school, the fault is not from the child, the fault is not from the teacher, but this child just has to learn in a unique way. There has to be an IEP for this child to learn. Sometimes there has to be a shadow teacher. When you have not put in all these things in place in your school, you will always have the conversation of dissatisfied parents. But when you have these tools put in place, where you even have documents to show that by the time the child gets to maybe to year 12, to year 6, to year 9, when they are writing their primary checkpoints, when they are writing IGCSE, there are tools that can support them because you have a document. They will have more confidence in the system. But if you are just having these conversations with them verbally, or maybe by the work that they do in the classroom, the indices are not there. To be honest, you will always have this conversation with the parents being dissatisfied. But you must get to the point in your school when you are at a crossroad, you refer to the SEND department. The SEND department will now call the parents in with the help of the head teacher, the school leader, and then you have a tool. Let them know that in those days, you would flog an autistic child. Why are you not learning? Why a child that is dyslexic? Why are you not learning? It's no fault of the child. The child has their own peculiar needs and they have a way that they learn. So when you expose this to the parents, you will not have parents who are dissatisfied. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So the next question says, what tips will you give to an online school for K-12 education to help with student focus and student retention, ma'am?
Okay, so at our school here, we are subscribed to the educator program, that's TESS. And I currently just did a course on AI, safeguarding and AI. And that exposed me on how to handle students online, cybersecurity, what to do, how they should handle themselves. Is a whole lot of exposure. In fact, that is another conversation for another day. Safeguarding AI and safeguarding on online safety for students and how to handle them. For students who are not focused and are not, you're not getting them retained. They are, of course, it's an online school. There are lots of distractions everywhere. You might want to set up, conversations with the parents to find out what might be the problem. Is online, because it's an online school, you don't have control over so many things. The only thing you can do is to find out what are the distractions, what things can you put in place to help the student, at what point does this student function the most, and all that. So just putting up policies, ways in which you can help the student to focus. It can be still through mentorship, who is checking up on the child, how the child performing and all that. So I think that would help for online students. You as an educator, you must be able to know what to do to help students focus and for student retention. Having student school online is a whole lot, but you knowing what to do as a school, as an educator would help. What's a distraction? How can you get the parents involved? At what point can you get feedback? I mean, that is a whole topic for another day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So I should think I'll read out just 2 more questions and then call it
Yes, please.
an evening. All right, the next question says, in a situation where we give discount to parents with 3 children termly, and we want to reduce it to once in a session, only first term, and parents concerned are complaining about this to other parents, please, what should we do, ma? Secondly, what's your opinion / advice on schools that use a head scheme of work and books?
I'll start with the first question, discount to parents with 3 children termly. Well, it depends on the percentage of your discounts. Because you know the economy is not smiling. You might want to have conversations clearly with the parents to know what you're going to put in place. Here at our school, what we do clearly is that we give discount on the 3rd child. But if your discount is on every child, maybe child 1, child 2, you're giving discount. That's a lot. And if you have to move to where you need to reduce that, you might want to have conversations about it. If you have a board, an advisory board, or a parent rep group in place, they will be the one that will help you to strike up that conversation with them. Don't just throw it at them first. Once you get the advisory board on your side, the parents reps on your side, the PTA on your side, is easy. But if you're operating a small school where you just want to do this by yourself, I'm afraid it might be a little difficult. But you can also have it in a meeting to let them know your new policy that says this and that. I mean, we all just must find a way to survive in the new economy. Secondly, what's your opinion, advice on school that uses a head scheme of work and books? Find ways to consolidate learning. You know, there's something called embedding. Here we try to embed the curriculum, even if you are doing a step ahead. What the student learns something that they learned maybe for the next year group. Now, how are you sure that they understand what they've learned already in this school year very well? Do what is called embedding. Check through the curriculum. Did they understand? Are you sure that the topic was well embedded? For instance, if you're teaching them multiplication and you're doing maybe 2 digits ahead in year 1, do not move faster. And then when you get to year 2, what do? Check to be sure that the students even understand what multiplication is. So that's where, even though you're going ahead, you do a lot of tests. You could do pop-up quiz, just to make sure that, you know, you embed your curriculum. So embedding your curriculum is one way that you can check to be sure that your students understand your scheme. And then for me, rushing scheme is always a problem. So what we do here at our school from time to time, in fact, every school year, we want what went well in academics. What do we think? To what extent did we complete our scheme of work? How can we ensure that we are not having too many gaps when it comes to, you know, implementation? So I think that has worked for us.
Thank you so much. And finally, please, ma'am, how do you handle high teacher turnover? That'll be our last question for the day, ma'am.
Okay. That's difficult for all schools, to be honest. I think what we built in our school is we've been able to get to the point where shared ownership becomes your word goal. How do you make your teachers? I've worked here for 19 years. There are so many people who have worked here for 15, 10, 9. Now we are putting structures such that when you get to 5, when you get to 10, when you get to 15, you're being rewarded. We put up a lot of reward system for our teachers. That's not to say that the teachers don't leave. They leave, but the turnover is not as high. If you have 150 teachers and then maybe 10 leave, I don't think your turnover is very high. But when your high-risk teachers leave, that is when you say you have high turnover. So what reward system have you put in place for your teachers? What are they looking up to say that, okay, I am part of the school, I enjoy working here? I think you may want to check that, and that way to help. Shared ownership, number one. Sit down with your team, your leadership team. How can we handle teacher turnover in a school so that, you know, retention is seen? I think reward system does a lot for us. But I know that the teacher who is very flighty may not in your school, if they come to your school and stay with you for 2 years, no matter what you do, they will want to leave after 2 years. Just do your best. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this mind-blowing session. Honestly speaking, it's been awesome. And I want to thank every other person who wouldn't want us to leave tonight, but we just have to. I could see that Miss Christy is already exhausted. And to appreciate her the more, she has been in a training since in the morning, but she still set out time for us this evening. So we truly appreciate you, Ma. God bless you for all you do. And then more feathers, keep flying and keep mentoring us. We appreciate you, Ma. And from all of us at School Linker, we want to call it an evening, and we say thank you for joining this webinar. We look forward to having you. All right.
I would like to say, School Linker, maybe you could share my social media handle in the group. Anyone that would like to follow me, I have Africana Solutions on Facebook and Instagram. And also my handles are Christy Ekanem. You can follow me. I have my TLF coming up this weekend. It's going to be a gathering of top educators here in Abuja. Thank you.
All right, Ma. I will do that. I'll share it. I will share your social media handle on the WhatsApp chat after this call. Will that be fine, Ma?
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you so much, Ma. We appreciate. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.